Welcome, Seeker. Thank you for joining me, Morgainne, the Existential Shift here. This is going to be a complex topic. So it's not the kind of video you want to wash your dishes while you're watching or fold your laundry or do all the fun stuff. It's a video to be focused and listening because one explanation rely on the one that came before it. It's like it's a build-up, and will it will revolve around a lot of different types of information: spiritual, energetic, mystical, and also scientific and factual and even mathematical. So there's a lot of connecting the dots between different worlds that I'm going to do today. And so if you really want to know what I'm talking about or understand, I recommend to genuinely tune in. Okay? So one of my pet peeves is connecting science with spirituality. I believe it's just two different languages to describe the same phenomena. Science just kind of lags behind a little bit because first there's the phenomena, then there's those who believe it because they feel it, and then they simply know it. But then there's those who are not tapped and not connected and are only using what you can refer to as the left brain aspect of our thinking, which is the part that needs to see something, to quantify it, and then to empirically prove it with a lot of repetitive research, which is also very legitimate and a big part of our existence and all good. I'm not saying what's better, what's not. I'm just giving a reflection of how I view things. But bottom line, they serve one another. The right lobe of the brain and the left lobe of the brain, spirituality, science, energy, matter. It's all just a dance between yin and yang. They serve the same purpose from a different perspective, but again, they're made of the same life force, you may call it this way. So that's kind of that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now with you guys when it comes to the Earth split / New Earth notions and timeline connecting, collapsing, different ways of referring to it. Now, November, let's begin there. I'm recording this on November 2nd, 2020. It's very relevant for this time because that's when I feel it the strongest. It's almost like being on the fork of the road. Right, you've been on the trail for a while now. It's been leading to this fork of the road. It's been part of it, but this moment in time is very pivotal. It's right before the sharp turn here or there. So I'm speaking about this topic because that's when it came to me and got processed. And this is when I feel like it's important for me to convey the message. But if you're watching this a year from now, 2 years from now, it's still relevant for the information that I'm explaining to you. What is New Earth? What is timeline collapsing? What is timeline? Okay? And all these things are relevant whenever you're watching it. Let me grab a sip of my tea. Okay, let's start with the New Earth concept and the Earth split. Now, these are terms that were made by Dolores Cannon over a decade ago. She is lovely. If you're not familiar with her, I recommend listening to her. She brings in great in-depth knowledge. But the prophecy of the shift, the idea of the evolution of consciousness is far from new, and it's definitely not just a decade-ish old. It's been around for thousands of years. Ancient cultures and prophets and prophecies have been speaking of this time where earth consciousness, meaning the earth itself, but within it obviously it's living beings, including us humans, are going to go through some sort of leap in consciousness, okay? Now, to simplify it and to think of it in easier terms, think evolution. Just like there's evolution for the body, like we go through an evolution of our physical attributes, all species, right? All species. Same goes to our brain, our consciousness, and the way we perceive the world and experience the world as a result of it. Thus, a complete change of experience in this life, right? If you think X, you experience the world as X, to really simplify it. But if you think YZ, then suddenly your experience becomes Y and Z. So right now, what we're going through, this so-called shift, expansion, is that evolution of consciousness. We're moving on, we're stepping up to the next level. We can definitely refer to it as dimensions and frequency, and I will get to that. I also want to explain what frequency is, because it's a word that is being used a lot, but a lot of people don't actually understand what does that mean? Frequency, dimension, what are you talking about? It's okay, I understand. It's important for me to give a little bit of a backbone of explanations to everything before I connect the dots, and I need you to be patient with me, because it's a challenge for me as well to explain everything cohesively. So we've been talking about it for thousands of years, from different cultures, religions, a time in history where there will be a leap in consciousness and we will move on forward to the next level, closer to divine existence. We vibrate on a higher frequency. We are more aware, we're more conscious, we're more broad-minded and tapped and closer to the divine. Great. All sounds like lovely words, right? Hold on, I'll get there. What I want to clarify is although the ancients have seen this type of shift for a very long time, writing about this, talking about this, they haven't quite seen what is happening now. Because the assumption that they went on and went by is that we are all, as the human species, as a wholesome being that is either going through expansion or not, is either ascending or descending, right? Descension is the opposite of ascension. Expanding or condensing and so on. The assumption was that at this time, us as humanity will go one of two options. Will either be this or that. We'll either ascend and leap, or we will descend. What has happened, actually, something very, very interesting, because whether we do ascension or descension really relied on our choices as a human species, on our consciousness and on our actions. Will we evolve and create, or devolve and destroy? Which of the forces are we going to hold and act from? Thus, which reality will we create? What kind of a shift? Is it a positive one or is it a negative one? And this is the complexity of this message. And this is where the notion of earth split is coming in, because earth shift and split, there's a little bit differences. Shift is change. Split is split up. Now, the earth is splitting, all right. Our human condition is splitting. Because we didn't behave as a whole. We've done very different things. Some of us ascended with our choices, and some of us descended with our choices. And the gaps have grown bigger and bigger and bigger, to a point where we're so far off of one another that there's nothing but split. We are not unified as a human species. There are very extreme different levels of consciousness right now in the world that hold very different, extremely different frequencies and vibration. And when I say that, I mean behavior as well. That affects the behavior pattern, way of thinking, and so on. So the ancient has made prophecies of this evolution, of this shift, of either real evolution, beautiful one, or that we're going to be destroyed. They saw either or, they couldn't tell which one. And this is a time when we're supposed to find out. Are we going into utopia, or are we going to be struck by a meteor? I'm just giving, extreme examples. Well, here's what I have to say to you, and this is the explanation of the Earth split. Both. Because we had such different choices. Now, for a very long time, it didn't completely lead to split. It was still on the possibility of choice, free choice, right? Infinite revolving doors, existing within infinite reality, parallel realities. There's a theory in physics called, in quantum physics maybe more accurate, called a multiverse. Meaning it's not a universe, but there are several universes in which there are several aspects of ourselves. There are other universes with other Morgainnes who do other things because they've made different choices, life choices. So simultaneously to me sitting here talking to you about what I'm talking to you, there's another Morgainne theoretically sitting and talking about a different topic in a different way. Or is just taking a walk in the park, or doing something very creative or very destructive. I know, infinite possibilities. The infinite potential of selves. If this is too much for you to grasp, it's okay. Let's bring it back a little bit. You can think of it as infinite potential of self, depending on which door you revolve or which choice you make. Different butterfly effects. So for a very long time, that infinite possibilities in existence continued like in this wavy changes. There were all kinds of different possibilities as to where humanity will go to. Because the differences were smaller. There was a broad range of different frequencies and different behaviors within the human species and the human condition and us as a society. But now the snowball started rolling stronger, faster, heavier, and the two snowballs started really close to one another. They just kept drifting off and off and off and off, and now it's just too big and too strong and too fast to even consider bringing them back in. It's too late. November, as I'm recording this, is the time frame. It's the moment where it's so-called too late. Choices were done. Decisions were made. Choices were made that led to consequences. You are free to make your choices. You are not free of the consequences, None of us is. And the frequency of planet Earth can contain such different energies. Let's put that on hold for a second. And let me tell you something a little bit about frequencies and energies, and then we'll come back to it so you can understand better. Okay. Frequency is the word frequent, right? It's how often something happens. So if you think, for example, about 8 hertz. 8 hertz is 8 cycles of something, of movement per second. So if to take a simple example, let's take this cute raven here. I have all kinds of cute stuff lying around. So 1 hertz will be, for example, the raven turns around once in a second. 2 hertz is he does 2 rounds in a second. 3 hertz, he's doing 3 round circles in a second, all within a second. 8 hertz, 8 swirls in a second. 800 hertz, 800 swirls in a second. Now, everything has a certain frequency. We're all constantly moving. You, your table, your bed, planet Earth. Everything has a frequency. Example, Earth vibrates on a 8.73, is it? 8.73 hertz per second. Okay, so it circles 8 times 0.7. Moves, vibrates in 1 second. That's his speed of movement. Venus is 221.23 hertz per second. Planets have frequency. Trees have frequency. Your eyelashes have frequency. And it's all measurable. The Schumann resonance, for example, is the thing that measures the frequency of planet Earth. Now, this is not, if you're not familiar with it, I'm not making this shit up. This is science now. We're in the science realm, okay? Explanation of these things. So when I say, oh, we are vibrating on a higher frequency, I mean our movement is more frequent within a time frame. We move faster. You can think of it in terms of thinking faster. You can think of it in terms of running faster. You can think of it in terms of processing emotions faster, or feel faster, and you do more in the same time frame, okay? Now, let's continue with this explanation. And remember what I told you, you gotta follow what I'm saying. If you need to go back and rewind and listen to it again, go for it, okay? Now, let's complicate this a little bit more in an attempt to simplify it. It will get back to simplification, don't worry, I'm on it. Einstein's equation of relativity is E equals mc squared. What does that mean? E is standing for energy, equals mc squared. M stands for mass, aka matter, times c squared. C symbolizes speed of light. Square is speed of light times speed of light. So mass times speed of light equals energy. And that's just the law of everything in our physical existence. And it includes the movement of frequency. What am I saying? When you take matter and multiply the movement of its molecules times the speed of light, it becomes energy. So the faster it goes, the higher the frequency. So in this example, the frequency of mass in this equation is speed of light squared. Crazy. Very, very fast. So if my molecules in my hand, which serves as the matter, right? Molecules are made of atoms that are made of neutrons and electrons and protons. I don't want to confuse you. Anyway, this hand, okay, starts shaking in the speed of light times speed of light, it dissolves to energy. And if you take energy, think gas, just gases, right? And you slow the movement of the molecules down, it becomes more and more condensed. So the lower the frequency, the more condensed it is, the more of matter-like it is. So if, for example, gas is more energy than a table is. Air is more, vibrates on a higher frequency, its molecules move faster than my nose. Venus, that its hertz, its frequency is 221.23, right? Vibrates on that speed per second. It's way higher than Earth, which is 8.73. So Earth is a more condensed existence than Venus. So if I'm saying words like, oh, we're vibrating on a higher frequency, we're raising our frequency, it means we're becoming more and more close-like to energy form. And we begin to align more with things and beings and organisms that have higher frequencies. Like, for example, Venus. I just take Venus as an example because I love Venus and I remember the frequency of the planet. But it can be anything else. I can't even imagine what is the frequency of pure divinity. Goddess, But to really be explanatory, I need to clarify that low frequency doesn't mean not divine. A condensed frequency mass, or low frequency, still made of the same matter that a higher frequency is made of. It's still molecules that are made of atoms that are made of elementals. We are all stardust, really, really condensed. If we get dissolved, or we vibrate on a higher frequency, if we become complete energy and formless, and tap into our spiritual existence, our spirit, our soul, etc., we're still the same life force that created this shape and this mass, and this structure. So this is not to patronize low frequency, rather just to explain what we're saying. I'll be honest with you, I think most readers and spiritual people on YouTube who talk and say the word frequency don't know themselves what they're saying. I think they know intuitively what it means, but they don't actually understand the explanation that I just said, and I hope this helped if you're listening. And this is where spirituality and science meet. Because energy is not a hoo-ha that is detached from science or from reality. It is reality. Reality is made of it. Everything is spiritual. Everything in your existence is spiritual. From meditation to picking your nose. From creating a masterpiece to a number 2 in the toilet. I know it doesn't sound like it, because the experience of low frequency, of condensed matter that we're living in, has so many differences, right? So things don't feel the same. They're not experienced the same. We don't experience talking, watching a homeless person beg for food the same way we experience watching a brilliant symphony. This elevates us and makes us happy, and this makes us sad and worried and anxious and concerned and so on, right? It brings up different emotions that we experience differently, but they're not actually different. All emotions are a part of the human condition, the range of the human condition. There's a reason why the color white is all the colors. Different colors have different frequencies as well. And the higher they vibrate, the more and more, the faster they move. If you take a wheel of all the colors, the rainbow colors, and you make it move really, really fast, it becomes white. It's exactly the same notion that I just described. When something is more frequent, moves faster, and there's more of it in the same amount of time compared to something else, it becomes what? White. Light. Empty space, empty matter, space, is no frequency. That's why there's no gravity, there's nothing. It allows the existence of the polarities. I think that black holes, for example, are just bridges between parallel universes. Which leads me to what I think is happening right now. In November, albeit this black hole. It feels like an empty space for me. I'm experiencing this month like I'm in the empty space. Now it holds all the frequencies, right? The black holds the white. The darkness holds the light. The Big Bang, right? Matter came out of nothing. Something came out of nothing. So to me, November feels like one of those black holes in space that are, it's like a transfer between one universe to another, one timeline to another. I'll get to it. I told you it's going to be a lot. I did warn you. It's a lot for me to try to explain it. Whew. Now, within this black hole, within this November, which is, of course, Scorpio season, duh. Who will rule black holes if not Scorpio? Like, no one. Only Scorpio can do that. Okay? Pisces, you get all the gases and all the planets. Cancer, take the ocean. Oceans. They just discovered confirmed water on the moon. Of course, the moon rules Cancer. And of course, the moon rules the tides in the ocean. It has water on it. Sorry. But really, it took you so long to confirm that? You didn't connect the dots? Okay, let's not derail. Anyway, so being in this dark hole almost feels like being in an elevator, going from one floor to another, and it's awkward as fuck. Nothing is happening, but it's still weird. You're looking at the numbers on the floor sign thingy. You're looking at your phone. No reception, of course. If there's someone next to you, it's very, very awkward. Don't know what to do. And it's like this in-between zone of... And it comes from somewhere and it leads to somewhere, but that's what I feel about November. And I feel like November can spit us out into like, I don't know which universe. I don't know which type of timeline, existence, earth you will find yourself in. That depends on your choices and on the work that you've done. Now let me clarify. You doing 3 years of meditation doesn't grant that. Spirituality is truth, not escapism, not a feel good or a feel bad. It's simply truth. If it happens to feel good, great. If it doesn't feel good, it doesn't matter. It's truth in its most simplified form. What am I feeling right now? Am I feeling like I'm calm and meditating, or am I feeling enraged and sad, but I'm trying really hard to feel great and calm? That's suppression and denial, and it's not spiritual. Spirituality is facing yourself with truth. But I don't want to go into that. I've been doing this work with the collective for 3 years now. Now it's at a point where it is what it is. There's no more convincing. Okay. Now, what do I mean by different universes that November is kind of putting us in between and transferring us towards? Timelines. What is a timeline, Morgainne? Okay, some people confuse timeline with time. When I say, or when you hear jumping timelines, it's not jumping chronologically forward in time or backwards in time. It's not time travel. It's not time travel. Time travel insinuates there's a past, a present, and a future. Jumping timelines will be if we go by the notion of infinite universes and realities simultaneous, and let's say the thing that separates them is black holes in space, okay? Maybe, according to my theory anyway. See how I'm connecting real scientific, empiric proven facts with spiritual notions and my own connection of the dots, okay? So a timeline, jumping timeline, is when there's this several universes, several potential you. You're currently on this timeline, on this narrative, on this story, on this fate, on this chart, characteristics, behavior patterns. Jumping timeline is jumping to a different parallel narrative, a different life. You look the same, your name is the same, but it feels a little bit foreign. You live in the same place, you have the same partner, same family members, same hobbies, but you feel like everything is everything, the air feels different. That's how it feels to jump timelines. Okay, I've explained that. But that's not what I feel is actually happening. This is just something that I've explained so you'll understand what it means jumping timelines. And that will allow you to understand the next thing that I'm going to say, which is what I think is happening in November. 30 minutes and we got there. And I only taken one sip of my tea. I think this is one of the most important videos that I've made, and I've made important ones. So I hope share this. I don't care if I sound crazy to other people too. Just share this. So here's what I think is actually happening. Let's put that aside for a second and go back to the Earth split. Two different potentials of life that is ahead of you, depending on your choices and the timeline that you will find yourself jumping into. And December is when you're starting to live your new life, depending on it. Like when your reality is anchored. Okay, now this is your reality. I actually think that we are going into an existence that has less free choice than we had. I think free choice was a bigger aspect, manifestation, ability, opportunities to change. There were infinite opportunities to change on our timeline. That you can even look in a chart, like an astrologer can check it out in a chart. Different opportunities to make different choices and create something different, or more advanced, or fulfill your best potential, right? I think we had a lot more of that, and that we're going to have a lot less of that. It's almost like, okay, you've made all these decisions, you've created this spirit that you are right now, and it's going to be anchored and rooted more strongly. So whatever decisions that you are going to make from here on will have even deeper implications and consequences than we had so far. And we always had consequences to our decisions, but there was always another chance, another opportunity to make a different choice. Very loving, very accepting. Not that we're not going into a loving, not that we're not going into a loving existence. It's just we've either learned how to be smarter and wiser, so we don't need so many opportunities. We can just live by this wisdom and continue expanding our consciousness, aka those who are continuing to the new earth frequency. And in order to be in a certain space, you have to match its frequency. Earth right now will not survive on Venus. It can't. Venus affects us from afar, from safe distance, but we can't handle the frequency of Venus. We can't handle the frequency of the sun. We won't survive. Explode. An explosion. The only way for you to physically be in a reality of a certain frequency is if you carry that frequency. And that depends again on what you've done so far and whether or not your frequency aligns with this new earth. And in this situation, you're already wise enough. You don't need so many opportunities. You don't need so many pats on the back. Oh, you fell. You can rise up again. It's okay. Because you will fall less. And then there's the old paradigm that will remain similar frequency to now, or even more condensed. That is so-called the old earth. Or those of us who have not done the work and are probably not listening to this video in the first place. It's not the type of video that will attract someone who is already, because 3 years ago, yes, 3 years ago I attracted all kinds of everything as an opportunity to help people get to this point and to be in a certain frequency. To have as many spirits as possible move closer to the divine, closer to unifying with the divine, because the frequency is higher and closer to godliness, to oneness. So we're going from a lot of possibilities to less possibilities. We're actually going from a lot of, think of it like the vase, God, the one, broke to infinite pieces, us, and infinite possibilities and potentials and parallel universes and parallel selves. Infinite pieces. And now the next stage, this Earth's shift, this new Earth, is where some of these pieces are healing back together, are glued back together. So if we had, like, to take a very simplistic example, oneness was split into 5 pieces to go back together, like Mercury drops, and unite into one. So now it's like 3 pieces, so we're even closer to, and the more we will progress evolution wise with our frequency, the more we will unite back with source. Now that's a long story, and I don't know how long that will take, but I do know that this new Earth thing is us getting closer. Everyone? No. Some remain in the condensed reality. Does it mean that they're doomed and lost and are now with the devil in hell? No. Take a chill pill. Drink tea. It just means that they have more journey to go through, a lot more karma to deal with, a lot more lessons to go through, a lot of smarter choices to make. But it takes them time, it takes them longer, and there's no time to wait. There's no longer the patience of, like, okay, there are the slow kids in the class. I hate to give this example so much, but just it will sit well. You will understand it better. But please understand that it's a hard topic for me to explain, so I'm trying to give examples that make sense. So don't be petty with your judgment, okay? So the slow kids in the class, until now, the fast kids were held in the same classroom. And again, this is not about color, it's not about gender, it's not about race, it's not about religion. If you make it about that, please don't be here. If you don't have patience for me to, really struggling to try to explain this to you, I don't want to deal with you. So far we were all in the same class, frequency-wise, consciousness-wise. But now it's just keeping everyone too much behind. So, separation to 2 classes. Ironically, unity requires separation. It's the irony of it. Okay, for at least some of us to get closer to a higher frequency and closer to source, or to one more step of the journey, we have to separate from energies that are holding us back. Those energies will continue their journey to come back to source, to raise frequency. Just take them longer, and they will be in the space of the old Earth. Now, here's to what you're probably asking yourself, but what does that mean? Is planet Earth actually divided into 2? Will there be 2 different continents of Europe and 2 different continents of America and 2 different continents of the US and everything? Like, really? 2 Earths? Not exactly. Yes and no. Now I need to explain another thing. Hold on. Ever been with someone and then broken up with, and then you've changed so much that it's almost like there's nothing any of you will do that will have you see them again? Not necessarily because you don't want to or anything like that. It's just the reality doesn't make it happen. Somehow you move far away from each other, and even if you study in the same place, you will always miss each other. Like, the energy will not allow you to meet. Similarly to how water and oil can't meet, because there's such different energies and such different frequency. You've grown so much different, right? If there's someone you keep meeting, you have a similar frequency. You cannot be in the same room with someone you don't share frequency with. Just say. Now, frequency doesn't mean character. It doesn't mean you're the same character. It could be that you have similar injury, similar emotional, psychological injury, and you're completely different people that deal with it completely differently, but you're drawn to one another because you have the same source of pain. Both of you were abused by parents. Just that, negative example, but you understand what I mean. Frequency is not character. You can be a chill pill and you can be walking bomb explosions and have the same frequency. I know it's a little bit hard to grasp because in the new earth, in that higher frequency, there's still fire and water and air and earth. And here there's still fire and water and air and earth and metals, but they're more fluid, a little bit more mutable, I would say. Energy is becoming more mutable in the new earth. Now, we're still in the same geographical so-called space. Someone who lives in the new earth's frequency and someone who lives in the old earth frequency after this shift comes December might live in the same building. Not likely, but I'm giving it as an example. But your experience of life, of that neighborhood, of that building, of your own daily experience life, completely different story. If one will tell the story of this building and another will tell the story of the same building, they will say something completely different. That sounds like different places. Now, so far, it was possible for very different frequencies to be in the same room together, but slowly, the more we will progress and the more the frequencies will further themselves from one another, the harder it will be, and the more likely it is that you won't be living close to one another or in the same environment, unless it's really possible somehow to have such completely different experience. But I'm just giving that as an example, right? There will still be major differences between social, economic states, richness versus poverty, things like that. But the reasons leading to the difference are going to be different. For example, the thing that is going to make people rich or poor, the reason is going to change. It's not going to happen right away, but it's part of what it's being led towards energetically. Because the true frequency of money is Venusian. It's an aspect of value, commerce. Venus rules both love and money for a reason. It's in the lower frequency, the more condensed frequency. It's harsher and potentially selfish and survival oriented, and money is used not for highest good. But in higher frequency, it's used for expansion, knowledge, generosity, joy. The reasons that will make people rich are now going to change. It's no longer the person that has the toughest elbows and is able to take advantage of others in order to win certain situations. And not all the rich people are like that. There's a lot of good high frequency rich people, and there's a lot of rich people who came there by not very good means, right? Now it's going to change. People who came to richness with deceit and integrity are going to probably lose. And people who kept their hard work and integrity are probably going to rise to richness. Poor people that were poor and also not with integrity are probably going to remain poor. And rich people that became rich from integrity will probably remain rich. But there is going to be movement based on what I just said. Now I know it's a lot to take. But that's basically what it means. Now I want to clarify one more thing. Back to jumping timelines. And you know how I said it's not that I think that we're exactly jumping timelines? You know, I gave that example of two different pieces of a broken, shattered vase are now unified and coming together. That's what I think is actually happening with timelines, and it's happening now in November strongly. Where it's not that you are jumping from your timeline to another timeline of another you, both collide and become one. It's like you're taking both energies of two timelines. Instead of having a lot of timelines, there are less timelines, less possibilities. The universe becomes more condensed the more we become conscious. We become more unified from the split, closer to one another. Oneness. So there's less possibilities, less timelines, less potentials. And how it happens is not by losing any of them. None of them is lost. Rather, you're taking in some of them in you. Depending on the level of your energy and your work and your consciousness, maybe you're uniting your timeline with one more timeline, maybe with two more timelines, maybe with three more timelines. And what does that mean? It means a whole lot of more power and energy and life force. Those in the old world frequency, in the old earth, are not connecting timelines. They might be jumping from one timeline to another accidentally, but I don't think they're uniting timelines. I think the unity of timelines, the taking in one. Now, another thing that can happen and this is just a channel coming in. Wow, okay. For higher spirits, some of you will not only just unite with another high frequency timeline of a self and become one with these several different parallel energies of a self and become one. You will take to you some of the lower frequencies, timelines, expression of yourself and of others. It's almost like you will eat them in energetically, in ways of transmuting them into a higher frequency. And that is relevant to a few of you that are master alchemists and energy workers. If you want to know what it means to transmute something with alchemy, watch my 13th element video on my 13th element playlist. Integration, transmutation, alchemy of self, something like that. Integration, transmutation, write that in the search with 13th element, or just go to my 13th element playlist, where there's an integration between your timeline and another parallel timelines of a narrative, of a story, of a life story, what will happen to you, right? This hero or heroine will evolve. But you will also integrate in other timelines in means of. Interesting. Okay, I know how it's going to be. I'm not going to say it because it will just make it overtly complex. It's too much. No, it's too much. So I'm not going to do it now. I don't think it will matter anyway. And I think those of you that it matters for you, then you'll just know what to do. You'll figure it out. You'll know what I mean. Okay. So what it actually means in your reality. So let's say you're going into a new earth frequency, higher frequency, and you're transmuting and integrating other timelines, either one more or a few more, depending. And from 3 or 4 or 5 or 2, 1. And this is happening now in November. And you need sleep a lot to let it happen. And you might dream of other self of you in a similar reality but a different reality, and then in your awake time you'll feel like you're in a familiar place but it's not familiar. Things will feel a little bit off, like a constant deja vu. It's just like one big I'm walking in constant deja vu right now for the past. I know this is November for us, okay? Basically think of it as, okay, I'll give you a simple example. Let's say in your personal life right now, you are really good with your career life, with your work life, but your love life look like shit. Like you are very successful in your own right, but you can never maintain a relationship, or you don't know what's going on with your love life. And it could be vice versa. And it could be other examples. Okay? And let's say another timeline of a parallel self of you that is being integrated to you, that you're being integrated with. They have it, other you, the other way around. In their timeline, their love life is wonderful. They found their true love in high school, and they've been together ever since, and they can't even imagine anybody else, and it's the story of a lifetime, okay? Right? But when it comes to their self-fulfillment in their career and ambition and dreams, they don't even know what they want. They're confused. They can't hold one job. They can't hold one dream, and so on. The low frequency earth, if there's integration, will kind of take the challenges from both, making life even harder. New earth frequency will kind of take the positive strengths from both and release the challenges because you've done the work. And here now the frequency matches for a wholesome experience. Now, this is to say that suddenly only miracles will happen in December or only tragedies will happen in December? Yes and no. Some will experience either this or that. It's hard for me to say, but yes. But a lot won't. It will be more of like a process throughout 2021. And most especially into the late 2020s. And by 2030, you're like several humans in one. But you will already become accustomed to all that energy, okay? "52 minutes. 52 is 52 years in a Mayan calendar year. 52 is a very powerful number. It's very symbolic, very meaningful. I'm trying to think if there's anything I missed or didn't explain or also want to say. Relationship that falls to the side. Oh, you can't save anyone. You can't make them understand and go from here to there. They need to do it. You want to send them this video? Go right ahead. But they're the ones who need to make the decisions, assessment, choices. If you're at a place where you're trying to control someone else and have them come with you to the new earth, you're probably not in a new earth frequency. High frequency can't control someone else. It's just not in its mindset. Control is not in the mindset of a high frequency. It doesn't grasp it. There's more flow. There's less resistance in your own daily life that you will be feeling, that you will be experiencing. There won't be a need to force anything or battle anything or resist anything. Things will just, it will be more serendipitous and fluid, right? Fluids and gas have a higher frequency than matter. Now again, there's still matter in this new earth. You're still walking on the earth and eating food, but the food that you'll be eating is way less condensed. You're going to change your food habits. If you probably already cut most meat, if not all of it. Meat has a very low frequency, very condensed energy of a lot of suffering and pain. You're taking in that animal. You're integrating the pain of that animal. It's a living being that wanted to live and experiences pain, which you inflicted on it, on her or him, and you forced it to die. You're saying, no, I didn't. Then you don't know cause and effect. If you pay something, you create it. You actually have more responsibility for killing the cow by paying for a steak than the person who physically did it. Because you ordered the hit. And that applies to anything. Cause and effect. If you take yourself from that equation, Don't take yourself from any equation. High frequency doesn't take itself from low frequency. It grows on low frequency, right? 2 hertz is made of 1 and 1 hertz. 3 hertz is made of 1 and 2 and 3 hertz. 4 hertz is 4 circles. 5 hertz is 5 circles. You can't be 5 circles without the 4 circles, without the 3 circles, without the 2 circles, without the 1 circles. Don't condescend the lower frequency. They are your building blocks of the higher frequencies. Condescending the low frequency is not understanding the low frequency, is being the low frequency. If you're thinking you're all high and mighty and you're absolutely certain you're in the new earth and that everyone else is... That's low frequency type of thinking. If you're completely detached from the pain of the world right now, don't know what's going on at all, it will be okay, I'm a lovely person, I'm woke up. Not. Because your spiritual high frequency is made of the reality that you're living in. It's an integration of it. It's compassion towards it. It's love for it. And if you condescend it, that's this way of thinking, not the books. You know, because I kept referring to this side as well. Integration takes this and that to connect. It's not neither. Purple takes red and blue to mix. It's not neither. A balanced America is the good aspects, the wise aspects of the Republican Party and the good, wise aspects of the Democratic Party, and a complete release of and detoxification of the rest, and it's the center party. It's neither of these numbnuts. Sorry, I know it's the day before Election Day. Both of these men represent the old world. You currently do not have a candidate to vote for that is representing the new world. What do you think that means? First of all, it means that America as a state will potentially get there only 2 to 4 years from now, when those are the options that we have. And the saddest thing about it, there is actually another option. The US has another candidate. The head of that party is a woman, a young woman. But she's not in debates, and the media doesn't speak of her. That makes matters even worse. Like, the potential resolve is there. We just don't give it room. We're so insisting on the polarities. We're thinking that one side of the polarity is the good side, one side of the polarity is the bad side. Both of these polarities are a splitted version of the negative old world, condensed old world. I shouldn't say negative, because there's negative and positive in everything, including in the new earth frequency. Okay, there's positive and negative, black and white there too. It's just a bit more invasive, a bit more lucid, a bit more mixing together. There's more rainbows there, right? Where water and fire don't turn each other off. The fire doesn't make the water fume, and the water doesn't turn off the fire. Rather, like rain and sunshine creates a rainbow. That's a balanced alchemy, and that's destructive alchemy. Chemistry. Balanced alchemy versus destructive chemistry. I'm seeing people all over fighting who needs to be on the chair, and I'm like, anyway, November elevator. Which floor are you heading towards? Either way, the existential shift is there. It's here. If the, if your homepage of YouTube doesn't show you it, my channel, my videos, you can search for it deliberately. You can show the universe that this is the type of knowledge you want to be exposed to. Actively make that choice. Definitely November to remember. And in December 21, is another portal in the Mayan prophecy that is technically, by those prophecies, supposed to either lead to complete evolution of the human species or complete devolution. But we have a split. So I feel like December 21st, 2020 will mark the birthday of the new earth. And 2021 will be like... 2020 was the birth canal. December is when we're like spit out and having to learn how to breathe oxygen instead of like through the belly button, Good luck, seeker. I love you. Thank you for being here. Share this message and comment your thoughts. I'll see you in my coming other videos. They're coming.